5 minutes. Good evening. This is the August 7th, 2019 meeting of the Laconia Conservation Commission. I'm Dean Anson.
Deb Williams?
Lisa Moran.
And Rob Mora.
Okay, we do not have a quorum right now. Wesley Bates is going to be late.
It's three
And-
quorums.
Three's a quorum.
We have a quorum right now,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have a fourth person, Wesley Bates, in about 45 minutes, so, anyway. Okay, so anybody have any comments on the minutes for the July 24th, 2019?
Move we accept the minutes of July 24th as presented.
Anybody have anybody want to make a second that motion?
I'll second, I wasn't here, but
That's okay, you don't have to be here to comment on this. Okay, anybody have any comments? Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Phew, these are easy, nice, thank you. Okay, so the minutes are accepted. Okay, so we have old business, the Pearly Pond update.
Yikes.
Rob, do you have anything on the Pearly Pond?
Yeah, in the minutes.
Oh,
In the
So
very
on the
back.
last page,
yeah,
Yikes.
oh, the last page. Oh, with the redacted portion?
yeah, with the redacted sections, which is somebody's personal email address, so I just
Oh,
figured that would be removed. So this is,
okay. Okay,
so they got a bid, several bids, but nothing has been finalized yet, so I can't give you any dollar amounts, but it ranged from high to low,
was there anything in the middle?
not a whole lot in the middle.
Okay, so there were two bids, high and low?
So there's high one and there's some low ones.
Oh, so there are more than two.
However, one of the bidders, who was probably more at the higher end, gave the recommendation that it should be left to
Left what?
left to let nature decide
Okay,
its future.
okay.
That pruning it may cause some issues where it might become unstable and fall.
Oh, okay. That's a serious situation. Scientific proposal to continue, is our opinion that the Pearly Oak benefit more by being barricaded and left alone in its natural state, rather than,
We know what Dick would say.
okay, so do you know what the city's decision was on?
I do not know. I believe it is going out to, they are finishing the bid process for it.
Yes, it says we received the bids and we'll be awarding this week, so it sounds like they're gonna go through with it, just don't know when it's gonna be scheduled. Above this, right here,
Right,
right here?
right, but then it goes on, it says, you know.
Well, that's what the
just leave it
side
alone.
note was, that was what
Yeah.
one of them recommended, but I don't.
Okay, all right, so here we are. Okay, okay, what about the dredging?
I've not heard any updates on the dredging.
Okay, I think Dean told me that what they wanted to do was dredge on as you face the Pearly Pond site from the road, they wanted to dredge along the edge of the right-hand side and along the, parallel to the road. Just to remove some of the sediment.
I believe that's pretty
You're
accurate.
saying closest to the tree and in front of the road, right? You said on the right-hand side, as you face it,
As you face the tree is right here.
and then on the
And
right-hand
Go down
side.
this side and go down this
That's
side,
what-
but
that's-
not do anything on this side
Right.
or that side.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
I just was making sure, okay.
Okay,
what if it hits roots from the tree?
Maybe come down sooner than later.
I
Natural state will be
I
accelerated.
don't think that the roots would extend into the water.
If you look at the
But
canopy.
I understand what you're saying.
That's
Yeah,
where
right.
roots are, right? They follow the canopy, so if the
Right.
canopy is out over the pond,
Mhm.
the roots will
But
also,
I don't think white oak is hydrophytic, is that the right word?
So it must be
I think,
under.
I think it would the roots would migrate towards the upland rather than towards, I think that's what you're saying, Tina, I think that might be right for the,
I don't know, but I think that,
yeah,
dredging and affecting the roots is a good concern.
yeah, no, it's true.
why do they wanna dredge?
To remove some of the sediment that's there.
What isn't it too, to lower, to make that spillway more accessible? Isn't there, because there was like an existing,
Yeah, there's a spillway.
something like that. yeah.
Mr. Foot,
Hi.
Greetings.
you would sign that, please. Okay, so we're talking about the Pearly Oak. Pearly Pond, Pearly Oak.
Yes,
Do you need a pen?
Curly Stump.
No, not Foot, please.
No.
That's,
Oh, I gotta put that one back here.
Okay.
Sitting over- sitting there.
Is there anything else that they are proposing to do, RFS?
Not that I've heard anything,
Okay, so RFS is communicating only with the city manager
and I believe in Parks and Rec, might be in there.
and Parks and Rec, okay. Okay, okay. Okay,
I believe Dean has sent a couple emails to try to gain inclusion.
okay. Okay, well, we won't get the bad press this time.
Huh?
No, that's okay.
Oh, them,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
It won't be our decision.
I
Yep.
sneezed.
Yep, I hear you.
Okay. All right, so, anybody have any additional comments on the Pearly Oak?
No, I just
There's
hope,
information on the last page of your packet.
I'm willing to wait a couple minutes, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, to give Mr. Foot a chance to read that.
barricaded. Right, as long as they believe in safety.
Mm-hmm. We'll certainly put a barricade around it would. If they don't remove the dead branches, having a barricade is a good idea. Keep people from walking under it. Okay, any other comments on?
I guess, yeah, the comment would be that I still would like to see, I don't know who it would be, if it's Parks and Rec, then fine, but some sort of proactive, plan for a time when the decision absolutely has to be made. No, so that there's a transition that the public understands, and that if there's gonna be any kind of ceremonial or commemorative things to be done,
Wow,
That
hope
we-
that's another 20 years down the road.
no, I know, but we've talked about different things, you know, about artist renditions or products or just something. You know, that there be a plan in place for that, rather than having shock and awe.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Maybe if we got an artist rendition, a current artist rendition, then we would have one from, what, 20 years ago?
What, you think like a retrospective, is that what they call it, like you know, I know what you're trying to say, a life cycle panel type of thing?
Well, then we could put them side by side, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking commemorative, you're talking about an evidence, like an argument for,
No, it just.
Just in memory of.
yeah,
Just have another, you know, an updated painting.
gotcha, yeah, sounds good.
We could sell prints
Yeah, that's a good idea.
and keep that money as a fund to support the tree.
They still go and mow under it, and that's not said facetiously.
They have been, right?
Hasn't pay.
Right.
Yeah.
Just with a hard hat. Well, that's not
have
gonna
it.
help.
Not really, well,
You have a robot
But that's
that
another
does it.
thing, if they are going to trim
Yeah.
branches, we should, the city shouldn't dispose of that wood. That could be used for products. We had once looked into getting pens made out of it as a commemorative kind of thing.
But it's gonna be dead. 18 inches split
Can't you make
at
things out of dead
$300
wood?
a cord.
or even just,
No. Just, pens, nice wooden pens.
or
and then-
coasters or something, but,
Right.
yeah.
And then they could sell them, and that could help propagate the tree too.
Okay.
Whatever.
Any other ideas on what we
Just
could do?
thinking ahead to,
Yeah.
instead of just taking it to the burn dump.
Ooh, that would be awful.
Did I say that?
No, I mean, it would be, it would be any other tree, we would just be like,
Right.
oh, yeah, okay, but does not
Right.
have this history.
Not any other tree, but this-
Well, but I'm just saying with this history. I mean, that's true, because we still have the one down by Dairy Queen.
We just wanna make sure the council thinks of those things
Okay.
as,
do we, and try not to be too non sequitur, is there an inventory of trees of a certain size in the city of Laconia? Or Belknap County?
I would say, is it an estate?
So,
Because, I mean, it's a state
UNH
champion, right?
Right, so UNH has the state, has a big tree program.
Yeah,
So there are a few that are in this area that are in the big tree program with UNH. As far as the city of Laconia, and I think you were involved in that, I don't think there's been anything since that inventory we tried doing with Kevin Dunleavy.
Huh,
I
yeah.
don't think there's been anything. That was like the iTree software, so I don't
Right,
know.
that's right.
5 years ago now.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe they're doing stuff now with aerials or drones that's far advanced to walk in the street the way we were.
No, I didn't, I was just as a point of curiosity, really, to
Well, and
maintain. some-
Information would be good too. if
Right,
we- if-
data like that, cause I know there are certain things that they do maintain, culverts, this, that, and I remember that from that tree thing also, so.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they called the top, or, looked at the top 10.
We probably could still call that list up and just update just that list, those streets that we did and see what's left.
That would be.
Because we did, so Rob, I don't know if you're familiar with this iTree software. In other words, we did ranges of sizes, so we had all that, and I think we also had whether, like invasive species, we were marking where invasive species were. We didn't do anything like culverts or any of that, it was strictly shrubbery type
Yeah,
thing.
but I knew that they had, as a part of Parks and Recs, they
Yeah.
had come up with some sort of,
And UNH Cooperative
at
Extension.
least in the parks or something like that.
Well, we were actually, we went down South Main Street, we went
Nice.
up Union. And the county forester, Andy Fast with Extension, was part of that, so he might be somebody that could help access the software again or something if it's,
Just curious,
Yeah.
not they have to go do it, but curious if it's right there, curious
Right.
if it becomes is that information we have.
yeah. Well, I guess kind of what I'm interested in too is because out and back of the Pleasant Street School, they've got one of those Liberty Elms, is it Liberty? I mean,
Oh, really?
like commemorative, so maybe that might be something to just kind of.
Is that like a Boy Scout elm that was placed some 40 years ago?
No, it's actually still a sapling. It's not
Oh,
very
yeah.
big at all.
I see what it is, so they're fresh. new.
Yeah. So I know. I'm not sure. I'm not exact. I just read the plaque real quick, but yeah, there's.
That would be cool information to put on our website.
What?
Different-
This is a list of the 10 greatest trees in Laconia, or, do you know what I mean, or?
We'll have loggers out there.
Okay, maybe
No, I'm
not.
just kidding.
Maybe not, well,
Was it-
you always have that.
There was a
Yeah.
woman who had the black wall. There's not in this town. She had a black walnut in her yard, and she came home one day and it was gone because it was so expensive. The wood, what they could get for veneer and all that was worth being arrested for. So, at the time, you don't, did you hear about that?
Oh, that's a good one, though. The flash has to mind some black walnuts I know on the wrong side of the fence.
Well, I don't know if the prices are still good, but
Always for that stuff.
Okay. And
Thank you
any
for
other
letting-
ideas on the Pearly Oak?
no, thank you for letting me digress. Thank you.
That's okay. I think the other thing we ought to do is make sure that they treat any insects that are infesting the tree. They did that the last time we
Yes.
addressed this. Okay.
Did they fill voids?
I think they just put
I fear to ask,
insecticide in there.
right?
Is that right, Lisa?
So if it's a hollowed out section that's still in the trunk or something like that.
They just put insecticide in there, I think, didn't they?
I had not heard that they'd use filler, but I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not, I didn't pay
That was a long time
real
ago.
close attention to the final product.
Okay,
Maybe.
okay. We want to move on?
Oh, actually, I do have one more thing.
Okay.
Did we give up on the idea of collecting acorns?
I thought that they
Oh, that's right, Marnie said no.
did a survey and they didn't find any?
They couldn't determine DNA and all that. That's right, I apologize. I had forgotten that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that conversation.
Okay. Anything? Okay, now, tributaries and Pogus Bay water quality sampling. Did we get the meter back?
They've not brought it back yet. They picked it up on the 30th and they have not brought it back yet, so I'm waiting for them to drop it back off.
Okay.
If they don't have it by tomorrow, I'm gonna email them.
Okay.
And I'll drive down and pick it up.
Who picked it up, do you know?
I do not know the young lady's name from DES that picked it up. But she worked for, I believe his name was Ted or Fred.
Walsh. Was it Ted
It's
Walsh?
one of those.
Probably Ted Walsh.
Yeah.
Ted Walsh, that's it.
Mr. Squared Away. I am.
Names, I'm not good with names.
I recognize your face anywhere. Okay. Okay, so, yeah, if you could check with them tomorrow, see what's going on.
You got it.
Thank you. Okay, what about the state school property? Any updates on that?
Well,
There's
yeah.
a big thing in the paper today.
Right.
And, and I got an email from Rick DeMark that was a forward, Rick forwarded me something from Mary McDonald. And the comments were that just that the, at least four of the members of the committee are very much in favor of including her proposal, or something to that effect. It wasn't, they weren't saying it, they were going with that proposal, but something like that. Maybe they have to say that
They
because.
were interested in it, I think.
Yeah, you know, that, I don't, maybe they don't wanna, like, playing favorites or whatever, I don't know, the wording of it wasn't that they were, you know, that they were interested in something like that. So it's all seems very good from that, but Deb's right, there was a write-up in the paper that did say, you know, there are also a sports complex and housing, and all these other elements are gonna be part of it as well. Even though the headline was agricultural hub. So,
It was a
little
limited
misleading.
number of acres. What did they say, 30? Or,
well, you know, yeah, I don't remember the number of acres, because that hasn't been determined yet. I thought what it said was it hadn't been determined. Oh, I guess that was the open space hadn't been determined yet.
okay.
And that could or could not be
I
part
think
of
that
the
was part of their
agriculture.
proposal, that
Yeah.
would be 30
That's
acres.
it, that
Does
may be
sound
right.
Yeah.
That's actually, for agriculture, you could do quite a bit of production on that amount. I mean,
Right,
saying 20 acres even, because you'd have buildings and stuff, but
right.
you could, that's still reasonable, you know, to go from we're not interested to that. That's great.
Conceptually, it's
Yeah.
ag is an important version of this
Yeah.
redevelopment.
And the small and beginner farmers have, Cindy Shea, who's on the group, the committee that Rick DeMark had pulled together with Mary McDonald and others, who's with the small and beginner farmers, was saying that they've been brought in on the process, and they're the ones that I subcontract to keep the O-Pee-Chee track hayed and all that. So it seems like we're getting the people who are already interested still at the table. So that's good.
program
Which one?
that Mary does?
Genuine local.
Genuine local.
If they were to put in a set of greenhouses in there as a part of
You're
that,
talking about rehabbing some of the building, reutilizing some of the buildings that are there, because at least one of them is in really good shape and it has electrified and all that, to a standard, I guess. And then, yes, additional outbuildings, sort of, I think is part of that proposal, greenhouse or high tunnel, or, but, to be honest with you, I've been keeping somewhat, a little bit of distance, so it doesn't
Yeah.
appear that, you know, so.
I think that there's a lesson to be learned from the problems that the Historical Preservation Commission has faced, given their public speaking and, you know, handing out their public comments on different issues and then being asked to recuse themselves from the decision-making process. So I think that there's a lesson to be learned there.
the group asked them to recuse themselves because they had commented,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah,
So I understand.
The attorney for the property they were commenting on asked them to recuse themselves. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but certainly the city council has made comments about the Historic Preservation Commission, so, anyway. Okay, anything else on the state school? Then, when's the next meeting? The next meeting is like next week or something?
Oh, I apologize, I don't do have this.
I can't recall off the top of my head right now. I can email it out tomorrow.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good, thanks. Okay. Pickerel Pond,
Got water in it?
You guys haven't been out there yet?
no.
I took a ride by,
Oh, did you? And?
yep, and I happened to be out on Pickerel Pond Road, and I noticed that, you know, when I go to Meredith, certain places have a lot of knotweed and others don't. And right down on Mill Street, they went in strong right on that corner and they did eradicate it. So I'm seeing on that property that is conservation, where you might imagine your parking and stuff like that, fairly good infestation
Was,
of the knotweed, and also up on, just to the east of it on a certain corner up there is thick also and growing. You know, this is insidious stuff. There's roads I ride on that go out into New Hampton and Bristol, you know, motorcycle roads, and I've been riding there for years. And now I can't look out over the fields because it's just so much knotweed.
yeah,
And so, if there's anything we do for, I wanna go over and smash it with my tractor and put it in the dump truck and bring it away and cover it with black. But, you know, that's a wicked project on something you have for conservation.
so I have a couple of questions, Dina, maybe you might know. So on the Mill Road, you're talking about in Meredith, was that, I wonder if that was done by, was that maybe or the Lake Winnipesaukee Association?
Oh, it was right on the corner there, you know, as you come down the hill right into Meredith there.
Oh, on
And
3?
that's Mill Street, comes around to the side, or
Oh, okay.
whatever it is. But that was 30 feet deep and, you know, a half acre.
Yeah.
And they really had to go
Yeah,
through
like-
some stuff to get
Maybe
rid of
that's-
that.
4 years ago?
Yeah.
3, yeah.
I think it was the Lake Winnipesaukee Association that, actually, it was a town of Meredith did it one time, because they surveyed their roads and determined where it was, and then they started taking action. And, you know, I've, just getting back from Asheville, North Carolina, and seeing their problem with
Kudzu.
vines, not just kudzu, but vines of just
type of-
overtaking the place. I mean, it's, I don't, it's almost like they've given up. I think, they would,
Probably have.
and I think Agent Orange probably would be like about the best.
Wow. Dan. Your trip down south has certainly enlightened you. Seemed like a whole new person.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying that, it's, the infestation is just,
That great.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's,
no.
it's, so it's, the question I had in my mind is there something that we could plant adjacent to the Japanese knotweed that could outcompete it?
Something more invasive.
No, not more invasive, but something that could
Natural.
outcompete it that was natural, that could outcompete it for sunlight and for water and for soil. I don't know what it is, but,
Well, DOT was experimenting for a while with different stuff. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
yeah, I think what they've done down at Belmont is they go down the street and I think they used either a backhoe or they used, like a brontosaurus and cut it all down,
I would,
or maybe it was just,
well, I mean,
You almost wanted to do it and vacuum it, right?
Yeah,
So
'cause-
it
Yeah,
went into
exactly.
a big holder.
because with Japanese knotweed, any little leaf that falls is gonna
Right.
be another whole shrub.
so where do you know, what other invasive do you know that
Well,
fits that description?
I think,
Bittersweet.
Yeah.
well, they're different.
well?
They're different in the sense that the root system, it's almost like a corn plant. The knotweed has a very shallow but very fibrous root system. And, so I think it's, when you've got a bunch of it, it interlocks and it's really hard, but, so I'm thinking you don't wanna like brontosaurus it.
Right,
But,
right.
but I'm thinking you could maybe do something
Scoop it.
that way, but I don't know, besides
But
the road.
what I'm saying is, based on what Mike just said, use something like dash, except without the dash, just, have a,
Even the first part
Suck
of
it up.
just keeping it down, before it just, I was just reading about this, and it goes up into northern New Hampshire, and there's hundreds of thousands of acres that are now just
Yeah.
taken over.
right.
Well, DOT was spraying with something that just like fried the whole thing. I don't know if it was salt-based or what, but they were using something, but I don't know. We can ask them.
Anyway, sometimes just with a backhoe and not
Yeah.
trying to bust it up so much, but if you have something, you can get a hold of it,
Yeah.
put it into a bucket, at least it slows it. The more it is, the more it takes over. Anyways, not being alarmist about it, but
No, you're right.
throughout all of these things where we look at these, I have a field right now that's just bittersweet, and it's
mostly spread
blowing me away.
underneath.
The bittersweet?
Yeah.
My yard is inundated. I think it's under my house even, like,
Yeah.
I expected to see it in the foundation any minute.
That's one of the fears of that stuff,
Yeah. So more to your point, I mean, I think it's more because it spreads under the root systems, do lateral shoot, but the plastic, we had put some really, I've forgotten what 5 mil more thicker stuff on top of it. And when it sends out its shoots, it's so pointed, it went right through the plastic.
They'll go right through a foundation,
So,
pavement,
yeah.
Bittersweet will?
No, I was talking about the
Bittersweet probably
knotweed.
would do.
knotweed will.
That's about the knotweed. The bittersweet, what the bittersweet's doing to the side of my house where I haven't pulled it away yet is it's going up under the
Yep.
it's going up under the shingles and pushing it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's little stuff still, I'm not worried about the house yet, but if I don't get out there,
Houseplants.
yep. Well, somebody was selling them as potted plant, I mean, so it's been a while now, but we went somewhere and like selling them in potted plants and I talked to a gentleman, and I have to say this, he is a Laconia person in a position to be planting, and he talked about bittersweet. He says, yeah, but it's such wonderful stuff for decoration. And I said, but really,
Oh, Lord.
you shouldn't. He says, well, I'll be dead soon. I don't care. Okay.
Thanks for helping.
Isn't it against the law to even sell the wreaths, the dried wreaths?
I don't think it is. I could, maybe to transport
Because
it?
because people use it for wreaths.
That's what he was saying, yeah.
Right, and if you didn't have like any berries on it or anything,
It's like a
that would be
grapevine.
safe, right?
But they love the whole thing is, they love the berries.
Well, no, but if the berries weren't, what I'm saying, if you used it without the berries, wouldn't it be safe to
Not-
use?
Not really.
No, cause
If it were
when
dead.
you took that, you know, if there was any life in it, you throw it into your
Compost.
compost pile out back, there's a little bit of moisture.
How long can it live?
I've heard 2 years somebody still had a sprout off something that was
Also,
too.
nothing with a root. Like if
Nothing,
it didn't have a
nothing,
root. Like if it
nothing
were-
with a root, but it was big enough, it was thick enough that after 2 years, it hadn't dried out.
It's like milfoil,
Right.
or it's like water chestnuts. Wow.
But in the water chestnuts, aren't you getting the seeds?
The seeds,
Yeah.
yeah, will live
Well,
for
they're supposed
7
to-
years out of the water.
7 years out of water?
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
I
I
mean,
was thinking of using it as a sculpture material.
don't.
Well, okay. I have so much of it, I thought, well,
You could make sculpture material, sell it to the Japanese.
People do use it for canes and stuff like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay, any more about Pickerel Pond?
Oh, I do have I have a question. Who's, as a now owner of a property, do we want to think about maybe trying to form a Friends of Pickerel Pond group or call a meeting of the landowners of Pickerel Pond or?
I think we only have, I think there are only two owners. There's one on the right-hand side as you face it,
Yes.
and there's one on the left-hand side. The one on the left-hand side rents the house from the people that we bought it
But
from.
I'm thinking going back to our concept of cross-town boundaries.
Oh, something in Meredith too.
because I was gonna say, there's only 2 houses on that pond?
No,
No.
on, adjacent to our property.
Right, but I
Yeah.
know what I'm thinking the
But then it
pond,
involves a pond.
like a
you'd
pond
have-
association.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm just throwing that idea out there, because that way we're all communicating with each other, and maybe we're sharing ideas on stuff, or, hey, I've got a problem down at that end, and we can help, or,
We could,
I mean, we've
we
got,
could send out an announcement saying we were gonna have a Pickerel Pond meeting
yeah,
and distribute it to all the people
Yeah.
that affront it.
yeah, and just an informal, just like an informal,
Yeah, so what do you do?
yeah. I don't know if you like that
Bad
idea or
idea.
not.
That's not a bad idea.
Okay.
Then we can maybe get everybody be
Well, if we all
consistent.
Right, and if we all know each other and then something comes up, it's a lot easier to have communication on it and.
Well, certainly the more we know about the pond, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And does anybody test it?
Mm.
Has it ever been tested?
Not unless it was a part of all that groundwater stuff.
I mean, might be nice to just have a baseline test done.
Well, the other thing is,
Would water department help with that? Do they do testing like that still?
Well, if we get our meter back, we can
Oh,
do.
there you go. Then
yeah.
you got it in hand.
is there city water that goes up to Pickerel Pond Road? I don't think so.
I don't think there is.
I don't think so.
I don't think it goes that far.
Does it go up Parade Road that far?
Probably not.
I couldn't tell you.
I know that house
No, I'm
burned,
thinking
probably
no.
not.
I don't think so.
No,
I
I'm
don't think-
thinking, no, I am,
I don't think you're gonna get city services that far.
no.
So maybe we should talk to people and ask them, you know, they must have septic systems and they have wells and.
Yep.
The state of the being, yeah.
Right, the whole septic thing that they did in Meredith where they were able to at least test for outflows and stuff like that.
Well, I wouldn't approach I wouldn't approach people right off the bat with, we want to know whether your septic
Yeah, are you
system's.
poisoning our pond or what?
No,
I would-
but, I
I
mean,
would
but
do
if we
that,
made a
but-
statement that, you know, we don't believe that the city water goes this far, are we right?
Yeah, as far as I know, I can't think of anything up there.
You don't have city water, do you?
It comes down to Beaver Pond Estates on
Pretty
that
close then.
side. And I have sewer all the way down to the pump station in the middle of the road.
On Roller Coaster Road.
Yeah.
So you have sewers?
So,
300 and something feet back from the road.
Okay.
so this is something that we'll be working with our, another staffer on. So,
Right.
we can,
Because it would be nice if, you know, if somebody has lived on that pond for a while, you know,
Yeah.
if they
Well,
ever
good input.
observed an algae bloom or anything like that.
Sure.
What kind of wildlife have they seen, things like that?
yeah, well, that was the point I was getting at. I mean, I would start small, like,
All right,
Hey.
where's your deer?
well, there you go. But I mean, we're just gonna sit, you know, as a new property owner on the pond.
Right.
Just introduce ourselves and who are you and what's your interest on the, you know, like, how long have you been there? What do you like about it? And like, that's the first meeting.
Yeah.
Don't start
Right.
talking about
Right.
your sewage overflow or any of that
Right.
other stuff
Oh,
right
no,
away.
I wouldn't talk
Yeah.
about that. I would,
Yeah, okay.
What kind of
They
fish
come
do
and
you
meet
catch?
us here or during one of our regular meetings?
yeah, maybe we could do it in a less city
Yeah.
function way, and
Or on the
maybe,
property?
or have it at
One-
the
the way-
library or some,
Or the Wickwest Grange, would they live
Mike's
somewhere
house.
there?
That's the other pond.
Yeah. You're right, though, Dean. The library's a good place, or,
Yeah.
some neutral territory.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anything else on Pickle Pond? Okay. What about cyanobacteria?
I did not go. I apologize.
I didn't go either.
I know, I had planned to go and something happened.
There's, once again, there's good stuff. It seems like the people that came and presented to us here, you know, from Watermark and up on, Paugus. And I see in the, Winnipesaukee Forum, of course, they start talking about bacteria blooms and stuff like that, and they, were able to put out their creed.
So 2 of the largest lakes in New Jersey have had awful blooms this summer and been closed. And Lake Hopatcon
Lake Hopatcon.
is a big lake, and it has been closed to use. They have had to, you know, warn people not to go near it. So, you know, a little bit different climate there, warmer.
It was just Governor Christie wanting a private lake.
I have relatives that they're up here, and they actually just told me this whole story.
Oh,
so
really? Okay.
it's, you know, it's a precursor for us. It's like, okay, you know,
Moving
they're, as far as temperature wise, they're warmer than we are, and certainly they're not to the depth of our lakes, maybe, you know, but you know, the threat is there.
The
Definitely.
more development, the more lawns, the
Right.
more green, the more.
Swim there. That would be a picnic place.
The problem is, I
What
mean,
was the other lake?
I can't remember. I can't remember what it was, but there were 2 in pretty close
we
proximity.
haven't been able to switch from a reactionary
Right,
mindset, and I until,
right. For everything.
well, I mean,
Anybody remember the lady's name who is in charge of cyanobacteria for the state? Isn't there a woman in DES who's?
Sarah Steiner?
I'm sorry?
Sarah Steiner? I mean,
Yeah.
she's the one I get the emails from about water testing on Hunkins Pond, but I don't know if that's, no, it's not
No.
Sarah.
No, it's not, that's not her name, because I would remember that, because, anyway, okay.
Well, you
I'll,
got your phone.
I'll find out. Okay. All right, no applications? Okay. What about milfoil?
We sent up to finance, your approval to transfer the $10,000 from Blackbrook to the Milf Oil Fund.
Okay, so Mike wasn't here last time, so neither was Deb, but, I met with, Scott Myers, and he said, hey, you have, $10,387 in this account. What is it for? And I told him I had no idea what it was for. So, Kalina traced it back to, the city council giving us $10,000 that was for the Black Brook study. And since the Black Brook study has been completed and all the bills have been paid, that's city money that's just been sitting there. So we approved sending, or telling the city they can take the $10,000 from that account and put it toward, and our recommendation was toward doing milfoil work in Paugus Bay or Opeechee or Winnisquam. So that was our request, and you know, they will certainly. So we did do that. And I think that was,
Sounds reasonable.
yeah, I think that was the right thing to do. So,
I did have a boater on Sunday tell me that he had seen some milfoil out in Opeechee, in the north end. And I said, that's to be expected. Out of our Lake Coast grant, we had, the original grant was $1,900. We've paid out $635, so we have a little over $1,200 left, which is plenty. We will not use that. Courtney Walker has done a great job for us at Opeechee. She'll be heading back to college though in 3 weeks. So if we want to volunteer our time to do that. So far we have about a 60% match for that grant. So we need another 40%, which I don't see a problem getting, you know, with some time down there. Winnisquam, you can speak to that. That's not under our grant, our Laconia
Right.
Well,
conservation grant,
well,
but
but we did,
it's part of the
city did contribute money,
to that grant. Right,
yes.
right. So Winnisquam, the Fish and Game grant,
No, the Conservation Commission contributed $1,000.
right, but it's not part of our grant.
No,
Somebody else is
Right,
supervising.
it's
It's-
the Winnisquam watershed grant.
Yeah,
So I keep saying they're gonna have trouble matching it, but that's their, Dean and I have already contributed to that, but,
right.
we do have a couple of boys down there on the weekends. It was a slow start. It was hard to find anybody to hire.
Right.
So, we have a 16-year-old, and then we have some 20-somethings. But it's better than nothing.
Right.
So,
and
they're
they
pretty good
they will survey about 60 to 80 boats a day
Wow.
on the weekend, yeah.
on the weekends.
Really?
60 to 80. So if you want to see the
Through
Through Fish and Game, yeah. It is super busy down there.
So if you want to see the
Check
gravity of the
Winnisquam
situation,
right off my list.
so go down Water Street.
Yeah.
Drive down Water Street.
Yep.
And just look at the way that people park their trailers.
Oh, yeah, I
all
believe it.
all of the undeveloped land along that road is trailer.
Wow.
I thought, you told me they weren't allowing people to park on the,
There's one company that has put out cones and signs. So last weekend, they were not parking, but last weekend the weather wasn't as good when I was down there anyway. It was on Saturday. So it wasn't as inundated, but yeah, I mean, they park across the street and, you know, like across from Water Street Cafe and yeah.
yeah, I'm surprised somebody hasn't put up a $5 or $10 parking, you know what I mean?
know. But then they'd have to be there for the day.
You get a trailer, 25.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, I'm just surprised somebody hasn't.
But there's a fish and game officer that is there Saturdays and Sundays for a good part of the day, and they have had, I mean, they have towed people out of there. I mean, it's
So what
serious.
is fishing game there for?
Yeah.
To monitor the lot?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Really?
And so, like, there was a woman that had left her car there, and it was in one of the trailer spots, and she had come. She was like somebody's guest, so she wasn't there, like, with her with her kayak or anything. And she left it there, and she couldn't find it at the end of the day.
Oh, that was the lady, okay, I thought I saw her sitting out at the end of
It was
the road,
like, ooh.
under the parking lot.
Yep. So
Okay.
they're not afraid to ticket people or have
And
a
he's
tow.
armed, so,
Aren't they all?
Well, I mean, but that sounds like an opportunity for the city of Laconia to have a liaison, I mean, to talk to the state about, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, if they've got a parking issue, the state has a parking issue, and it's affecting the city of Laconia, it sounds like
Right.
an opportunity for them to come to some sort of, you know, pay for the parking garage or something. It's like,
I don't know.
Trailers in the parking
no,
garage,
I'm
probably.
just saying, I'm
don't
I'm just saying that funny aside, but that there could be an
Yeah.
opportunity there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, and so far, the two guys at the Fish and Game ramp have collected 5 samples that were sent to
Oh.
the state to be examined, and
Yeah.
they all came back not milfoil. And there was a question I had as to whether there was milfoil at the end of the ramp in the river, and they said it was not, right?
I didn't
Somebody
hear
took-
this update.
Somebody took pictures, it wasn't me, somebody took pictures and sent them to Amy
Right.
Smagula, and she responded saying it was not milfoil.
Yeah, I remember we looked at it. I
Yeah.
didn't think it was, but it was, that one section was bright green. I don't know if they took a picture of that or not, but.
Yeah, well, the picture was pretty bright green, but I think that, you know, I don't know when it would be a good time to get in the water and get a sample, probably when they drop the level of the lakes.
Right, and it's, you know, the river, because of the flow, you probably wouldn't see as much milfoil in it
Right.
as fast. I mean,
Right.
you know, at the beginning of the season, we had a lot of water, and so that was pretty fast through there, so for anything to take root this year.
So when I took the samples, when I transported the samples down there, I asked the woman who I gave them to at DES if she would ask Amy if she had surveyed the river,
Right.
in particular the mouth of the river. And this woman did not know, but was going to ask Amy, and I haven't heard from Amy, so maybe I should give her a call.
Right, but so I can say that the Messer Street ramp has been pretty clean. We
Right.
haven't taken many samples off of there at all. So that was good. That's good also.
And the 5 that were taken at the Fish and Game ramp were all dried off trailers.
Off trailers, right?
So, and most of the people that go to that ramp, the Fish and Game ramp, are returning from being there the weekend before. So they've dried,
They come up on the weekends, yeah.
right. So,
We've had good response from the public this year at Messer Street, I have to say.
oh yeah, and
You gotta be used to seeing it by now.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
people that haven't, there was a gentleman and his son the other day that I had gone kayaking, and he was like, you know, thank you for doing this, you know, I'd really like to tell somebody about this, so
I
it
come
was,
from a New Jersey lake that's closed.
no, they were
Bright green and closed.
they were local, but it was, it's nice to hear that when people appreciate what you're trying to do, so.
right, and we have, the people at Fish and Game have been very cooperative. And there'll be trailers with boats on them backed up, 5, 10 boats backed up. So the guys just don't even delay their launching because they just go right down while the boat is
Yep.
waiting, so. So I think it's worked out, in terms of the first year, I think it's worked out pretty well.
First year of us, you in charge, you in charge.
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple of things quickly, if you wouldn't mind after that.
I just have one other thing.
Oh, sure.
Did you see the notice that Wickwass is looking for somebody to be a lake host until the middle of October?
I did not see that.
So if anybody knows somebody that wants to make between $10 and $12 an hour, there's an opportunity. Sit and talk to people and look at boats.
What's your minimum age?
18.
18?
Well, that,
Yeah,
by themselves, it's
Yeah.
18. We have a 16-year-old because he's with an older person.
An almost older person.
no,
No,
I know
he's
the person.
aged. Okay,
So two things, I'm on the Lakes Management Advisory Committee, and we had a meeting up at Squam Lakes. I thought that we were gonna talk about the wake boats, but apparently not, because it didn't come up. But I know there's something in legislature about that. We did talk a lot about, for my education, I mean, it wasn't because of my education, but a long time, about getting rid of a piece of state property. It's very involved, not here, but it's just very involved because it's a statewide thing. So that took up most of the meeting. But they've just got, they talk about a lot of legislative stuff. And then the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, which I'm also on that board, she's going to be talking about, we're having a meeting this week, again, a lot of legislative stuff, and, you know, I know we don't do much here in terms of circulating that information, but one of the things we're gonna talk about is, she's the executive director, has been, of the Conservation Commission group, has been asked to sit in on that, the study committee for, and I'm not gonna get it right, but, so are having conservation lands impeding or getting in the way of development? I mean, I guess that's one way to look at it, that's not how it's worded, but she's gonna be on that committee, I mean, not on the committee, but on the discussion about it. We're
I
having,
mean, is development getting in the way of conservation land?
I'm just, you can look at it either way, because I knew I wasn't gonna get the name of the bill right, and I'm sure they don't, it's not biased that way, but that's how I look at it, is just, so but that's something that they're gonna be addressing directly with her. She hasn't put out like a question of like, oh, I want a position statement from the NHACC at all, or like that right now, but I'm just letting you know. So I don't know, we've not talked about circulating legislative updates for us, and I don't know if we should, or if we should just, you know, I would send stuff to Evan, and Evan would send it out, you know, like, here's the e-news from the NHACC, and then he would send it out, or sometimes when it comes from the NHACC, they happen to have everybody's email address on it, not just the chair. It's not, I don't know that that's consistently the case, but I'm just putting it out there, there's a lot going on, and some of it, the NHCC is gonna be directly involved in, because the executive director's been asked to sit on the committee, and that's one of them.
So I don't know what,
We can send that out if you want to forward it in.
Okay, but, thank you.
just a FYI.
Yeah, but do we wanna do it just from that group, or do we wanna, cause there are other, like, who else should we be following for legislative things of interest, or
Lakes Regional Planning Commission.
do they put out like a Friday news or something?
They put it out on a monthly basis. We get,
Okay.
the executive committee gets an update, and the update includes comments by, you know, Bob Selig.
I know the name.
I think he's on the Lakes Advisory. Anyway, he
Also, New Hampshire Lakes has a
Mhm.
newsletter that they put
So-
out, and it's monthly or
So for Rob's, you know, I don't want to be sending out 5 different legislative updates, you know, I'm just trying to say, so I'm just kind of wondering if we,
Well, I can forward the New Hampshire Lakes one that I get.
Yeah, I think that the
To
value
us.
of the New Hampshire Lakes is it's conservation oriented.
well,
New Hampshire the Lakes Region Planning Commission is planning. It's much broader, so I think if we used,
Yeah, but she can't forward it to everybody because then it's considered a meeting.
Yeah, it's a meeting with,
If you forward it, if you want to forward it to, we can forward it out as information. We can disseminate it as information.
Okay, well, I guess what was gonna happen then
But
is
if
probably
you start sending it amongst yourselves,
right,
then it's,
a problem.
you're creating a meeting.
So is,
But if you send it to the conservation and we send it out as informational.
so you
based.
don't care if Deb sends you one and I send you one and, okay, that's fine. That answers the question then.
okay, and then if we got it in our information package, then we could talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because New Hampshire Lakes sends them out monthly, right?
And I'm sure Ashley, the new person, would love to do that.
Yeah, and it will, he'll get her up to speed. Get her up to speed on what's going on. Is she from New Hampshire?
I did not ask.
Do you have an idea of a start date for her?
Next 2 weeks.
Yes, correct.
Keep up, Deb. We asked all these questions before you got here.
No.
No, we
kidding.
didn't.
So
Did
she's
we ask
starting
that
on a
one?
Wednesday?
Kidding.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So what, is that a beginning of a pay period or something?
No,
Just
just a day.
It works for everybody.
21st?
Were you done?
Yes, thank you.
Maybe it's a lucky day.
The Granite United Way has put out information
thank you.
that the Day of Caring is coming up on September 25th. And they are accepting ideas.
You know, we've
So
got
if we
this
wanna-
knotweed all over this.
I know, you know where I'm going with this. I almost thought, I said,
And
you know,
bittersweet.
there's a project that I can see that's doable, that,
Yeah,
that
okay.
doesn't take forever. It's on our stuff.
So is there a piece of property where we could do that, where it's not right alongside the road and having the issue of, safety? I mean, I suppose we could go to Pearly Pond and finish what they started there.
Or we could go to Pickerel Pond.
Yeah,
Where
that's
you
not
saw
right
it.
beside the road, that's not 50 miles an hour, that's
Yeah,
a
okay.
leisurely 30 and could expose some people to
Let's
this.
think
So
about
you
it.
just need a dump truck there, really, it just needs to come off. I hate touching that stuff.
I know, and that would be a good, like, take some pictures and do a little write-up in the paper as an introduction to the city of Laconia just recently, blah, 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 and here are the Day of Caring.
Yeah.
Have you walked the property yet?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Years ago.
well, it was a couple years
I
ago,
am.
it wasn't, it wasn't,
Several times, several years ago.
yeah. Why? Oh,
I think there actually may be more work that we could do there.
Yes.
So,
Well, I thought there was talk about that you wanted to do a conservation walk at some point.
Yes, we did talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Yep,
right. Wes and I have talked about doing this for 3 months now.
right.
So maybe at some point,
This time has come.
We should do it and stop talking about it?
actions speak louder than words.
Right?
Oh, yeah? Huh.
That's a good thing.
Wow, all this enlightenment.
Okay.
I struggle.
Anyways, that was my 2 cents.
Let's look at a calendar. It's pretty full.
oh, yeah.
Okay, the other thing is the Belknap County Fair is the 10th and 11th.
Yeah, it's this weekend.
Okay,
There's a lot of stuff going on this weekend.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
okay, so we've talked about milfoil. Any staff reports? Mum's a word?
Mum's the word.
Okay?
I got one more,
Oh.
city owns some property. The old, Weir's Dump. And there's forestry projects going on up there. And it might behoove us, if we were a progressive type of, conservation group, to speak with some of the foresters and certainly leaning on our friends at, Belknap County. But, there's a chance to do a harvest in there. They're right around in that area, and they have landings that are readily available.
Landings for the harvest.
Yeah, and so you'd have to see, you'd send them out, they give you an idea of what it is that you could possibly render from that.
Does-
And, it may or may not be worth, is
So the city,
$15,000 you could hire and do and retain the funds for it, or through the city.
Where is the Weir Stump?
This is off from Route 3, right? And there's a little road there. It's fairly obvious right now, across from the Weir's Times, and it's 20 acres. And it's just, the only reason I mention it is because there's a project going on right around it.
Is it,
Is it
is it
your
adjacent
project?
to your
Yeah.
property? Yeah.
Is it your forestry project?
Yep.
Okay.
So
And I
the
just say there's landings, there's cutouts, there's stuff that you don't have to do, and it's a road that the city of Laconia has for access into their Weir's Dump. And it's, you may make some money out of it.
So-
They could give you an idea of what they see in there.
the city owns it,
City owns it.
and they wanna keep it a dump.
Yeah, they don't wanna mess with it being a dump at all like that, but there's ways around it, These are big things that can go right over the cliff and bring it back up. I don't know how much, is it worth it for 20,000, or is it just worth more trees? Is it worth it if it was 40,000?
Well, is it worth
It's not gonna be
changing?
$100,000.
Is it worth changing the habitat to something more
And then
productive?
that's certainly a question. I'm not saying this is or isn't, I'm just saying it's possible. You harvest, what's in there, and, you can, I find these people to be sensitive to, vision, and you set it up so in the next 50 years, what good trees you have can grow.
So that would have to go through city council, cause it's not like conservation land or anything.
Yeah, and I don't wanna stir up a big
Yeah,
bee's nest, but I can ask,
How many
just,
acres is it?
it's 20.
20,
And it does go down to some sensitive stuff, but others of it is readily available. And you wouldn't mess with the sensitive stuff because it's not worth it, there's not enough there,
Do you have a feel for how much the lumber is worth, or the?
I don't know, I don't know, just on 20 acres like that, it's hard to tell,
Well-
Is it, if it was 5,000, I say no, you know what I mean? If it's 20,000, you make a decision
I know, but
if it's worth it.
can you make a wag?
I can't, as a qualified individual, I don't know, I'm still seeing how some of this rents out, you know what I mean?
So are you, what was on your property, are they doing selective cutting, and is that what you would
Right,
recommend for the?
right, I have a couple different things going on there, a couple different views of what I want to accomplish with it, you know what I mean? And some of it is regenerative, some of it is, it's a stable forest and to regen and be able to do something, I know, I'm already 57 years old, but if you can look at something that's 40 years down the road, right, then that's planning for maintenance on the property.
So I was just looking at it from the standpoint of if it was $20,000, and that was money that could go toward milfoil.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's not a conservation piece. It's a city piece. Are they interested in something like that? I don't know. I can ask these guys and see if I can get a
If,
better feel for
yeah.
that,
if you could get a ballpark estimate,
right? And without just
5,
as we
10,
stand in the
15,
woods,
20.
we
Right.
just stand in the
What do you
woods
think?
and talk, you know what I mean?
talk to the trees?
Right, talk to the trees, oh boy.
I'll just, Mike's got much more experience than I do. I know that when we did our property, though, we didn't actually realize as much as we thought we would because of additional expenses that came in. So I would just, I don't know if you.
And that's what I'm talking about, landings that are
Yeah.
already made that don't have to be
Yeah,
developed, you know, there's certain
right.
accesses and things that we share.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Nice to see you.
We're talking about cutting up.
And we've been doing that all night.
But no big deal on that.
Yeah,
I
but
just-
if,
I'll
yeah, if you
just-
could just get a
an
ballpark
idea.
estimate.
'Cause I'm comfortable with these guys, so there's
Okay.
some good stuff going on.
Good, okay. Who knows who it is? After?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Okay, lead us right over to the edge.
So, since Wes is here, if you have
Yep.
just,
Well,
I-
is there any, what?
well, that's what I was gonna say, it's asked about Jewett Brook. I did send you just tonight, an email with the H&H report and the watershed management plan and the grant that I originally wrote, the narrative and with a budget.
Okay.
So you can look at that.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, well, I feel bad, I
And,
didn't do it
and
tonight.
a woman named, I think her name is Deb.
Deb Burrell.
Deb Burrell.
Yeah, I wanted
Do
to.
you know her
Sh-
yet? No? Okay. But she talked to us at the Winnisquam Watershed Network. And she's a teacher at the high school. And she wants to see,
Not Laconia.
not Laconia?
Oh, is it Laconia? I didn't
I
think
thought it was Laconia.
I'm
Anyway,
sorry, okay.
That's,
Us.
because I didn't recognize the name, but that doesn't
Yeah, that
mean
doesn't
anything. Yeah,
ring any bells for me.
okay, well, maybe
maybe Winnisquam.
She'd like, well, they're interested in what you're doing at, like, your water testing and all that other stuff, and she'd like to talk to you.
yeah, and she wanted to talk to us to see if there was something that the kids could do with the Conservation Commission, or we could help them with, or whatever, so.
On Winnisquam, right?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. I'll send her an email, find out.
Well, she sent me an email too, so I can respond to her, because I have it on my, I was gonna talk to Wes after the meeting, so I'm glad you brought it up, but,
Okay, anyway, okay. All right, so, so one of the things that we have is the United Way has, one great day of sharing or caring, or I can never get it straight,
Day of Caring.
Day of Caring. And it's volunteers from different organizations that all come together and do projects. And so we need to, we would submit candidate projects to them, descriptions of candidate projects, and then they would say, oh yeah, that sounds like really interesting, like one year they, 1 or 2 years, we cleaned up Jewett
Yeah,
Brook.
several years.
But we were talking about going over to the Pickerel Pond property and cleaning up the Japanese knotweed.
Yeah?
So, and then, so anyway, it's September 25th, and I don't remember any high school kids that worked on this, do you?
no, because
Because it's during the week. It's
During
it's-
school?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually a Wednesday
yeah,
or Thursday or
it's
something.
adults, it's an adult day out
Right.
for,
But they.
I feel like one year when you did do Jewett Brook, that kids came over for a short period of time.
Right, at the end of school.
Right.
They came over and, but there were representatives of Eversource there, and they were taking out big, I mean, I'm talking about big stuff. Chunks of concrete, poles.
Wow.
So it was, so, anyway, it's an opportunity. It's actually, it's a good opportunity if we did something on Jewett Brook and we had the kids involved.
Right.
Do it after school, whatever we did, we would do
Well,
after school.
I think the adults, they have a schedule. They have a morning
Yeah.
session and an afternoon session.
Right.
I mean, they're scheduled, so it might be, I know Ivy has done this with me before, and it might only be towards the end of the year that she's able to do it, but she had the kids come over like 11:45 to 12:30. So I mean, I had a group of 7 kids for basically a half an hour to tackle projects, and
Just
if,
during their
if,
class period.
yeah, and if they're able to do that, then that might be something where we could match some people up.
Okay, and
But we can think of different projects for that,
Yep.
because we can submit more than one.
actually, one project that we could submit is mowing the lawn at Eversource's property.
Oh, they did,
They did.
they did.
They harvested, would they bale it?
I don't know what they did, but they did,
Out there
of course,
threshing
mow
the
it
wheat.
near, on the lakeside, but they did leave those funky weeds in the middle
Oh, nice.
of the big lot.
Do they-
And then they put a picnic table
Ooh, nice.
over on the porta potty side, and they kind of wrapped the base of some of those small trees. I think they put some small trees in.
Oh, good.
So they've done some work there, yeah.
And did they take away the dead branches that fell and stuff like that, or did somebody else do that?
I'm not sure, I don't remember seeing them, so I think someone has,
Okay,
so.
okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so, small projects.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so anything else on milfoil? Have you tasted any lately?
Not,
Not yet?
haven't.
Good.
A delicate palate.
I know. Okay. No staff reports, except that on the 21st of this month, the new conservation technician is starting. Her name is Ashley. She have a last name?
Something with an R, I can't pronounce it.
So the
Rupert?
21st being.
Pert or something like that, or I think it's RURPRERT or something like that.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Now, is the
I cannot
21st
recall off the top of my head.
Is the 21st going to be our next meeting?
Yes, that's our next
Let's
meeting.
swing right into it, won't
That's
we?
it.
There you go.
Hi,
Welcome
Ashley,
to the
you're working
club.
until 8 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, welcome to the.
Welcome to the
city.
NFL.
Goodness.
You did feed the cat extra kibble this morning, right?
Okay. All right, so, next item on the agenda, Mr. Foote, is,
Move to
we just
adjourn?
did staff report.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, okay.
Second?
Any comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Good. Okay, so now we're gonna go into non-public session.
Use this here.
Oh, did,